welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I am Kanchi Shah, General Manager for Content and Strategy at Strateging. And it's a pleasure welcoming you all here to today's webinar on Get Future Ready Now, Modernize Your VMware Foundation for Growth and Innovation. I welcome you on behalf of NetApp and Strateging. Ladies and gentlemen, as the digital landscape continues to evolve rapidly, modernizing foundational infrastructure is more critical than ever. Studies show that organizations with modernized systems are 70% more likely to achieve their growth and innovation goals. So it's safe to say that infrastructure isn't just about keeping the lights on. It's a strategic priority for sustainable growth and resilience. And today, we'll explore impactful strategies that go beyond merely adopting new technology to drive business performance, agility, and innovation. And who better to kick things off than our keynote speaker? Please join me in welcoming Rajneesh Arora, Chief Research Officer and Country Business Head, Singapore at Strateging, who will be discussing how modernizing to maximize business outcomes is the best thing that organizations can do. Rajneesh, the virtual stage is yours.
It's my pleasure to have you here today. I'll be your host, and I'll be kicking off with a keynote session talking about how data-driven innovation is transforming our business landscape. What are the key priorities and investment areas that are helping organizations to become more data savvy in their endeavor. So let's get started and see how significant is the impact of this digital innovation agenda. We asked the question as part of our CXO research, what % of your revenues do you get from digital business agenda in 2024 and 2030? And it's interesting that organizations are driving almost 27.6% or 28% of their revenue from digitally connected products, services, and customer experiences, which will go up to about a third of their revenue mix by next year. And by the end of the decade, it's almost going to be 46%. So almost half of their revenues by the end of the decade are going to be driven by digital business agenda. If you look at the global economy, it'll be almost $20 trillion of digital economy by 2025, going up to about $33 trillion by the end of the decade. Almost 24% of the GDP, global GDP in 25 is going to be driven by digital business agenda. And then how significant is the impact of AI? As we start to look beyond the hype that everyone is talking about, that AI is being overhyped, but the reality is it is going to have a profound impact on our global economy. Almost $15.7 trillion of incremental economic value would be added by 2030. And this value is going to be greater than the size of the economies of China and India today. So you can clearly see it's going to have a very profound and significant impact on our global economy, creating significant value for nations, organizations, and businesses of all sizes and across vertical industries. Now, what is also going to happen as a result of all these big changes and shifts that are taking place, tectonic shifts that are taking place, we're going to see a lot of organizations become irrelevant or will cease to exist as we know them today. Now, there's a research by Fortune 500 that 52% of the companies, as we knew them in 2003, ceased to exist by the time we were in 2023. Now, this rate and pace of demise of organizations is simply going to accelerate as digital technologies enable every organization to build new capabilities and have the ability to disrupt traditional barriers to entry across many vertical industries. And of course, when you look at in 2025, almost 70% of the organizations are saying that they'll have more IT budget, more tech spending, pivoting towards digital innovation agenda versus keeping the lights on and keeping your existing infrastructure and applications running. Now, when we ask the CIOs, what are the top three business priorities in your organization? And it wasn't very surprising to see digital business agenda being ranked by almost 40% of the survey respondents, that was among the top three business priorities for them. What is interesting is that increasingly, better data-driven decision making is now part of the whole thought process and the agenda of the CXOs, LOBs, and even the board. So in every organization, the leadership is starting to think, how do we start to make better business decisions, whether it is about how do we accelerate product design and development? How do we bring new products and services faster to the market? How do we bring to market products and services that are a lot more relevant for the changing customer paradigm and the customer tastes and preferences? And of course, the whole focus around driving revenue and profit goals and financials hasn't gone away. But what is important is 30% of the organizations feel or are starting to work towards defining a lot of their business processes using data-driven technologies and capabilities. So data is at the heart of this big transformation that we're seeing across organizations, all the way from Australia, New Zealand, the more mature technology-savvy markets, to India at the other end of the spectrum, a rapidly growing economy with a lot of interesting mix of traditional businesses as well as a rapidly growing mix of digital natives. And then, of course, how significant and how real is the AI momentum at this point in time? And I'm sharing certain results from a state of the CIO survey that was done by CIO.com. And interestingly, we saw 80% of the CIOs agree that they're being tasked with researching and evaluating how can they start to leverage AI to make a profound impact and change in their organization. So clearly, it is becoming top of the agenda for a lot of the CIOs, CTOs, and technology leaders such as yourself. 70% of the CIOs agree that they are now starting to work more closely with business. What this means is that AI is not a technology play just. Increasingly, business is getting very extensively involved. Line of business executives, functional heads are getting involved with many of these AI projects because AI is starting to become business defining, and it is going to shape the competitive capabilities of every organization going forward. And of course, almost two-thirds of the CIOs and technology leaders agree that line of business is aggressively pushing for the adoption of AI across applications and services and enablement of products and solutions. So clearly, these numbers underscore the point that AI is real. AI is happening as we speak today and is going to have an even bigger impact over the next several years. Now, as we look at organizations becoming whether more data savvy, accelerating their data-driven innovation, or starting to embrace AI and Gen AI to transform their business processes and business functions, what organizations need to do is to build the right capabilities around data. Every organization has data, but unless and until organizations start to build excellence around these three key pillars, the first one is around access. Now, what is happening in every organization is as the technology landscape expands and becomes much more heterogeneous across, that includes multiple clouds, the rapidly growing edge infrastructure, what we are seeing is the emergence of, in many of these deployment scenarios, what we are seeing is that data complexity continues to grow because organizations are no longer running applications that are powered by block storage. There are applications that are using data personas that are sitting in file structures, or object storage is becoming increasingly big in many of these modern data-driven workloads. So clearly, unless and until you build a data infrastructure that provides right access for these myriad of applications and workloads across the vast expanse of IT landscape, you will not be able to drive and be able to thrive with data innovation. Second is your ability and capabilities of your infrastructure to be able to analyze information. Um, the real value of data comes from being able to take information from multiple sources, bring it together, ingest it into a platform, analyze it, especially when we are talking about some of these large AI training and inference models, and be able to create insights in real time. The key differentiator is going to be being able to create real-time insights that start to power the decision-making capabilities of the line of business executives. And of course, securing information, data protection, data compliance, data governance is extremely important, especially against the backdrop and specter of growing number of ransomware and malware attacks. Now, as you work with your technology partners, what I would like you to increasingly start challenging them and asking them questions, because if you don't get the right answers and support across many of these strategic imperatives, then it'll start to throttle your data-driven innovation capabilities. And the first one is ask your technology partners, how can they help you break down the silos, the data silos, and how can you manage data across or the data sprawl across these multiple clouds and the edge infrastructure. Because if you're not able to get access to data that exists across this vast expanse, then you will not necessarily be able to drive innovation or be able to benefit from data-driven business processes and business functions. Then how do you create seamless access for workloads? Now, it's not just about where the data exists, but also about how do you get seamless access to data? Because there are distinct data personas around block, file, and object across multiple workloads running not only in VMs, but increasingly in containers. So clearly, there's a lot more complexity that exists in the environment today than what it was 5 or 10 years back. How do you build a common data management platform? Because obviously, um, a lot of organizations, whether you're a large organization or a mid-sized organization, you've invested in a tremendous amount of infrastructure, storage platforms, systems, technologies, software over the years. And it's a fairly heterogeneous environment with their own distinct management platforms. But clearly, if you need to simplify your data infrastructure, you need a common data management platform, a common set of tools and capabilities for provisioning, managing, orchestrating data services seamlessly for highest levels of resiliency, agility, and flexibility. How do you build a high performance platform? Because many of these large language models for AI training and inference will require compute and computational capability that will be an order of magnitude greater than what you have in your environment today. So clearly, as you sit down and work with your technology partners, these are some of the areas from a data infrastructure standpoint that you should be seeking answers to so that you can accelerate and catalyze data-driven innovation in your organization. And last but not the least, how do you ensure that you can get 100% of your data back in the event of a ransomware or malware attack? Because this can be business defining. So in essence, key takeaways, businesses across vertical industries, across countries, across the different regions are transforming at blistering pace. This is a given thing. And a lot of this change and disruption that's happening today is powered by AI and Gen AI technologies that are helping to fuel this data-driven innovation in every organization, giving new capabilities, ability to compete against many of the established players in every vertical industry. The storms of disruption that we're talking about are really going to require you to build a data infrastructure that's highly resilient, extremely agile, and flexible, because this is how your business needs are going to change. Businesses are increasingly demanding higher levels of resilience, agility, flexibility, and cost optimization to remain competitive in this highly dynamic, disruptive, and transformative business environment. Data maturity. How do you define data maturity of an organization? And it's defined as you build the right capabilities around access analysis and data security, governance, and cyber resiliency. And of course, all of this is not going to be done overnight, or it's a well-defined project that you can run over the next 3 to 6 months. It requires a multi-year strategic roadmap and a strategy to transform not only your technology infrastructure, but also build a data-driven culture in your organization, transform business processes that are powered by data so that you can take the right business decisions to enable success and competitive advantage for your organization into the future. So with that, I come to the end, and I'll leave you with a quote from John F. Kennedy, which is one of my favorite quotes, where he says, change is the law of life, and those who look only to the past or present are certain to miss the future. So if you're successful today, or you were a successful organization yesterday, make sure that your organization doesn't have a Kodak moment in the next 5 to 10 years. So thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of the webinar.
Thank you, Rajneesh, for setting the stage with such a compelling keynote. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's take things a step further and dive into how we can actually craft a future-ready data infrastructure strategy. One that not only meets today's demands, but also lays the foundation for the groundwork for tomorrow's innovation. Joining us on this expert panel, we have a remarkable lineup of thought leaders. Please join me as I welcome Jenny Tan, member of the Solutions Subcommittee, AI Task Force at ISCA, and adjunct professor at Singapore Management University. She brings deep insights into how AI and data strategies can transform infrastructure. Let's also welcome Rowan Dolan, CIO at the Catholic Education Archdiocese of Canberra and Goulburn, who shared his hands-on experience in creating adaptive, resilient infrastructures to support diverse and evolving needs. Also joining the panel discussion, we have Saeed Mushir Ahmed, founder of FinStep Asia, who will provide a forward-looking perspective on how fintech is harnessing infrastructure innovation to fuel growth in fast-paced markets. And leading this powerhouse panel as moderator is none other than Rajneesh Arora, Chief Research Officer and Country Business Head Singapore at Strategy. Together, they'll unpack the strategic, operational, and technological shifts that are redefining data infrastructure. So without any further ado, let's begin.
Thank you so much, Kanchi, for the introduction, and welcome to the panel discussion, Rowan, Jenny, and Mushir. It is my pleasure to host you today. What we want to do is, over the course of next 20 minutes, is to talk about how organizations across the region are digitally transforming, how data innovation, data management is one of the cornerstones of their ability to transform and become a successful digital enterprise, and what are some of the pitfalls and the challenges that they need to address to sort of accelerate this data-driven transformation journey. So let me start with you, Rowan. You've been involved with several public sector organizations and a lot of the named large organizations in Australia. Now, how do you see these organizations transforming over the last couple of years and going forward in the next 2 to 3 years?
Thanks, Rajesh. I think they kind of have to. With the future with AI particularly, they've got to get their data management right. They've got to understand what data assets they have, and they have to understand how best to use them and extract the value from those assets. And I think that's where many government organisations have fallen down over the last decade or two. They haven't really taken technology seriously, and now technology is at the point where it's standing there and saying, we're going to do this and you need to keep up. Everybody wants to go and do AI, but without good data management, without great data governance and the architecture in place to be able to manage that and the costs of being able to manage that, you really can't do very much at all. Digital transformation is a word or a phrase that's often used. I think it's been fairly poorly done in government, certainly at state level in Australia. It's not been done particularly well up until 2020, when we had a 3-month digital transformation done as a direct result of the COVID impact. And I think many government departments are almost going back to the way it was, with all their digital transformation really is about turning a paper form into an online form. They actually haven't transformed at all. If you look at the definition of transformation, they really haven't changed at all. They've just taken the same process. They're doing the same things they've been doing for 10, 20, 50 years, and they're just doing it in an online form. Ask any public servant in Australia how easy their search function is on their intranet, and there's a great guide. It's poor, it's terrible. They can never find what they want, and that's a real problem for everybody, I think.
Do you think part of the problem lies in the fact that they've tried to solve a business challenge by simply throwing parts and pieces of technology without actually looking at how they're going to transform people and processes? Because I think digital transformation is all about transforming 3 key imperatives, which is people, processes, and technology. And if you don't sort of transform each one of them, then you're really not going to see the benefits, and you're just going to go from paper to a digital form of an interface or a process, I guess.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think that, the successful transformations have started with a clear identification of a business process that needs changing. And there's not always a technology solution to that business process problem. Sometimes it is just a people change and a process change. A great example was in South Australia with Department of Human Services when I was there. And their concessions area had a process for assisting people at the lower socioeconomic end of society with rental payments and with gas bills and power bills and those sorts of things. The application process took, if memory serves me, about 6 weeks. So people had to live for 6 weeks not knowing how they were going to pay their power bill. And that's a bit of a challenge for most people. With some lean approach to the business process, they were able to change that to 5 days. So, and there was no technology involved. And I think that's the pragmatic approach that government needs, to sit back and say, let's look at the people, let's look at the process, and then if there's a technology solution to the problem, let's solve it with a piece of technology, not the other way around, which is how it's being done.
Yep, I agree. Jenny, you've been with commercial organizations, and of course, now you've sort of transitioned into sort of an academia environment. So, what would you define are the underlying challenges, which is why many organizations are not seeing the true benefits of this whole transformation and innovation agenda that they have in their mind, in their vision, but when it comes to actually seeing the benefits, they're not seeing those benefits?
Mm-hmm. So I think I agree what Rowan just mentioned about that. And I just wanted to add on to his comment that will lead on to what you wanted to find out from me. Simply put, is that the whole transformation process is too long haul. And I would say that management has no patience with seeing this through. And we all know that it requires a lot of effort from the management to put it into a strategy and not just a project implementation state. Yeah. So I think these are a few things that is lacking. And in today's context, while Rowan pointed out that most of the projects in digital transformation failed, I think a lot of people didn't realize that they actually failed their transformation project. So research has also shown that it's about 2/3 of the transformation projects actually really failed. Yeah, and people don't learn from it. That's the issue with it, and they've forgotten the challenges that they have faced in the first phase of digitalization, and now coming to AI. They thought that they have learned their lessons, but actually it's not true. They have actually thrown the concept of transformation out of their mind, because the way I've seen how people adopt AI recently, in recent period, is that they have rolled out a lot of things by project basis. It's literally project implementation and not a transformation. And the benefits of it is very, very unclear, because earlier on, it was mentioned that data management is the biggest challenge, which is very true, because a lot of organizations, they didn't know how much data they have and what kind of data they have and where are they stored and in what form. Putting aside they have to perform data classification, I don't think they realize the effort of doing that. And that's why the benefits of ripping out of all these AI implementations is so unclear. It's not there yet. A lot of people are, just racing. Yeah. So they don't know what they want to achieve. So I think that is a very difficult situation to overcome if organizations don't take a step back and review their current position.
So do you think the advent of cloud, the emergence of edge infrastructure has actually made the entire challenge even bigger in terms of data sprawl and data complexity? Because now data doesn't just reside in the core data center. Data resides this vast expanse of the enterprise infrastructure across multiple clouds and the edge. So would you say, the problem has just got accentuated in the last 5 years?
Yes and no, because regardless which platform that you adopt, it's just another tool. Yeah. So in the first place, if the root cause of the problem is already known and documented well, the rest of it would be easier. Of course, I wouldn't say that we always look forward to the cloud adoption, the edge adoption. That causes different types of complexity. But like I said, if the root causes have been addressed in the first place, I don't think that would be a big problem. Yeah. So it may be an extended problem, but it may not be a big problem. But with that adoption, I do see a lot of us struggling more from resourcing perspectives, and at the same time, how to compete with all the computing resources that we need in order to do all these. And you have to make a decision. And it may be counterintuitive when, organizations are going asset light, putting their data on a cloud, and yet, in exchange of all the computing resources and intellectual property rights of all these AI solutions that they've developed, they may consider bringing data back, right, to on-prem to deal with it. So you are really countering your own strategy if you have to do that. But sometimes, if you look at it, the way that all these CSPs are charging us, it's really too much. And the joke is, those are my data. Why is it that I have to pay to access my own data? In the past, I don't have to when it's on-prem. So these are challenges that organizations are facing, and they have to really decide what kind of risk they want to take before they start measuring, because there are just too many layers of changes at the same time, dealing with legacies and all these future run kind of computing platforms. Just too much. Yeah, they can't even settle the one.
Sure. Great, great. Now, Mushir, you work with a lot of fintech organizations, and these are organizations that don't have the legacy or IT debt of the past couple of decades, and they're starting from a clean slate. They don't have physical assets, and their core capability, their core strength is actually the use of new, disruptive, innovative technologies, whether it is cloud, AI, data management, that is helping them build their competitive differentiation. So, where do you see the fintech organizations in terms of what has helped them drive that success?
Thanks, Rajneesh. I think when you're looking at fintech organizations and startup broadly, right? As you rightly said, they're light on physical assets. I would still say they have some physical assets that they need, but largely the change became in terms of cost at the beginning, right? In particular, so let's go one step at a time. You would say cloud became, so from Google to Amazon to Azure, everybody were giving out free cloud credits up to a certain amount, right? And then incremental based on the amount of usage versus in the good old days, if you can call it, or which is still the case with large enterprises, where you had your data servers on site or the costs were very high for you to use, and it was much bigger packages that you needed to sign up for. So that helped them be agile, but also build. And this was the cloud services investing in the long tail in the sense of saying these companies are going to grow and the numbers are going to grow. They're playing the volume game and the growth story, right? And it's just now paying off for the big cloud providers because the startups went native. Now, there's other advantages of that happening. Jenny mentioned to a certain extent is when the enterprises start moving towards cloud and the other innovative technologies, you're already there, right? There are also challenges that come with it, but in essentially you're already there in terms of being able to service and be able to work with the more innovative, the newer end of the enterprise, right? So that's number one. The number two piece when it comes to use of technology is there is no, with forgetting physical assets, there's no legacy infrastructure, right? I'm talking about IT infrastructure, both in terms of software and hardware. So you can start fresh. You're almost leapfrogging in some senses, if we can use that terminology, in terms of using of different softwares, and hence you're in the kind of in the cutting edge. And more importantly, which is the third piece, as a startup and to a certain extent a scale up, you're able to take more risks with your technology than an enterprise can when it comes to possibilities of downtime. I'm not saying that the startups are very comfortable with the downtime, but they're relatively more comfortable than an enterprise which can have a big hit across. Whereas a startup, some people are, you have a little more leeway from that perspective, right? So these three things are very important, and the technologies that have matured now, I think cloud technology is more or less pretty established. I mean, you can talk about the use of cloud and fintech for many years now. What has changed now is you're also having the big enterprises in terms of the banks and financial institutions also using it. AI, I think, is a very long conversation because too many times we generalize AI instead of breaking it down into the different. I mean, AI has been around for 50, 60 years, if not more. And there have been different applications
Absolutely.
from smart algorithms moving to predictive AI. And now we're seeing Gen AI and the impact thereof. And the first ones to use Gen AI, startups, right? Because you want to use, you want to maximize whatever resources you can get. And with the cost being so low, with the democratization of Gen AI, if I may use that term very loosely, you can see that the startups will be the first one to try out. They don't mind failing, but they get some outputs of it. So that's number two. And number three is blockchain technology. Again, similar conversation. I think we're now reaching a stage of maturity in blockchain technology where enterprises, including very, very large banks, are building, and central banks and governments are using blockchain, though I'll still say it's at an early stage from an enterprise adoption. But from a startup's perspective, you're already seeing that being deployed by some of the big tech companies and startups from the last 5 to 7 years. And I'll stop there.
Great. And a lot of these technologies that you're talking about, data is at the heart of this transformation.
Right. Yeah.
And which, brings us to the point that, look, organizations need to get a lot smarter and a lot more efficient with how they're managing their data from access analysis and also from a governance, protection, and resiliency standpoint. Each of these functions around data ops becomes extremely important if they have to continue to sustain this innovation journey. Rowan, let's come back to this topic of data.
Rajesh, if I may add, I think there's one other piece that is needed from the data, which is bias, right? You also need to be very aware of data biases, different biases that underline
Yes,
these data
absolutely.
sources. So that's another one. I'll get
Especially
back.
when you get into the whole Gen AI space, the data bias is an important aspect that needs to be resolved and taken care.
Yeah.
Clearly. Roman, let's get back to this topic of, you know, organizations have a lot of data, but they're struggling with getting the ROI from the data because data is spread all over the place. There is data sprawl. There's complexity around getting access to the data. And also, the number of data personas have grown significantly all the way from block to file to object. And of course, different kind of application environments from VMs to running applications in containers. So how do you think organizations can address this challenge?
Well, I think clearly the very first thing they have to do is understand that data is an asset, and an asset has value. And they need to start managing their data as they would do with any other asset, whether it be a building or something else that they might own. And most organisations, certainly in my experience in ANZ, don't do that, and they just don't. They don't manage it. So what comes out of that is a whole lot of other issues. They don't know what data they've got. They don't know where it is. They don't know the cost of maintaining that data. Everybody sits back and says, well, we'll just put it on-prem and sit in a server somewhere and that doesn't cost us anything. Well, that's not true. It costs you a lot of money. It's just not as visible as a cloud cost is, because a cloud cost hits you every month. Whereas most organizations are running legacy because they never got around to replacing it, or it was cost prohibitive, or we'll do it next year. We'll put it into next year's budget. And as a result, it never gets done. And so you end up running a system that's 20 or 25 years old, which, is still is still implemented with a 2 in front of it. No one ever thought that those systems would be a legacy system, because we were dealing with mainframe systems in the year in the year 2000, right? We all remember what we were doing in 1999. And so businesses need to get serious about their data. If they're going to get serious about Gen AI and AI, generally, then they need to get serious about their data. And until they start viewing it as an asset and ensuring that they know where it is and how to manage it and how to measure it, they're going to be in a lot of trouble. And that is reflected in IT budgets, and it's reflected in cybersecurity budgets as well. If they were serious about their data, those budgets would be a lot bigger than they are, because it costs a lot of money to run those systems.
So how do you think, or what would be your recommendation for organizations to get their hands around this problem of lack of visibility and access to the data? Because
data governance, data governance is where you've got to start. You've got to get a group of stakeholders together and start managing it as you would any other governance item at a senior executive level. You manage risk across the organisation. Well, not knowing where your data is a huge risk to any organisation. So it needs to be managed like any other risk, and it needs to be managed, through a kind of steering committee arrangement, so that everybody at the top level of the organisation understands where the data is, what the data is being kept for, why is it being kept, because there's a whole lot of privacy concerns that we may not have had 25 years ago, but we certainly have them now. And, with any of the breaches that have happened in Australia in the last, 2 or 3 years, privacy is a very big issue in this country. And if you don't know what you've got, how can you know that you're compliant with privacy legislation? And worse, or I think worse, if you got hit with a court subpoena to supply all the data on a particular item, how do you know you're actually complying with that subpoena? And you don't. If you're not managing it, how would you know? And that's a really big problem for many organizations.
Great. Now, Jenny, you've been championing the cause, and you've been helping to sort of drive the whole Gen AI and AI agenda and helping organizations embark on this into this exciting world of artificial intelligence. Now, how important is data innovation and uh, having the right access to the right data sets and data sources in successfully getting the ROI from investments in AI or Gen AI technologies, and that
Yeah.
make an impact on the business eventually?
Yeah. I think first of all, we will need to separate the concept between data innovation and AI. They are separate, although I would say that data innovation can lead into AI definitely, because both the underlying assets is data, right? Yeah. So I would say that from my role sitting on a lot of committees looking at how they are rolling out all the AI projects, the main thing that I've realized that a lot of the use cases, they are actually not fit for AI purpose. Yeah. So a lot of them, they just look at it from a like trying to do digitization versus digitalization kind of thing. Yeah. So they are trying to convert an existing script into a 2D factor from the typical data analytics, right? They are trying to just put it into the AI platform to run something. So in this case, it's very clear that use cases, the real use cases of organizations trying to implement AI, regardless they are using application AI or Gen AI, is not there yet. And that would also lead to the unclear motive of why are you using it? Is it just because people are using it, that's why you have to follow? Or just showcase and being branded and marketed as we have AI working, but actually the truth is your AI is not a real one. Yeah, it's not holistic enough. It's just a plain one dimension kind of thing. Yeah. So I think in that sense, it's really difficult to measure, because in the first place, if you don't even know where your data stands, just now we spoke about that quite a fair bit, and you don't know how much your data assets are being valued, that's another way. And in organizations, other than perhaps pure fintech, where they can start from clean ground, majority of the organizations have legacy to deal with. So there are too many moving parts. Yeah. So when there are too many moving parts, how are you going to justify your ROI? But I would say the root cause is really they don't know what they want. Yeah. So from a data innovative perspective, they may think that whatever that they have obtained from the data analytics experience can just port over, which even personally, when I was dealing with consultants doing some of these projects, they told me that as well, and I told them off. I said that if I just do this copy and paste, then I don't need you. Yeah. And I don't even need an AI to help me to do with that, right? So where we want AI to really extend the benefits of what we have been doing, I think organizations and management need to give thorough thought. But regardless what's your brilliant idea there is, I think first of all, we all agree that data governance, data management, the day that it is not well managed, this problem will perpetually happen. Yeah. And it may lead to bigger risk in going forward when AI tech gets mature. And the rest of them are just trying to catch up. Yeah. So I think these are the key points. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you so much, Jenny. Roman, a hot button topic in the industry is today around VMware costs increase as Broadcom has changed their entire licensing policy. And a lot of customers are looking to sort of de-risk out of the VMware environment. Now, how do you think customers can successfully mitigate any increase in their VM environment costs and also build an environment that's future-proof and future-ready in terms of modernization?
Oh, there's a lot involved in that question, Rajneesh. I think the first and most important thing is that you need to get a handle on your environment, your VM environment. It doesn't matter, really who the vendor is. You need to understand what you're using it for, how big is it. I've lost count of the number of times I've heard a developer or an architect say, we'll just run up another VM. And there's no rhyme or reason to that. And so then they're the first ones to start to scream when there's a sprawl of this environment.
Sure.
And as a C-suite executive, I really, all of us really talk about three things in the C-suite. We talk about strategy, we talk about budgets and financials, and we talk about risk. Now, these runaway risks in IT, because of the lack of the management down in the middle layers, let's just get another VM. It's like saying, in the old days, look, we'll just get another PABX. No one takes into account any of the costs. We just get another PABX, and then we wonder why 20 years later we can't afford them anymore. And it's the same that we've been having for a decade or more in the VM space. We'll just get another one because it's cheap, right? It doesn't cost anything. It's the same conversation that we have when we're talking about cloud generally. Developers are really good at running cloud servers up. They're not so good at turning them off again. And they're also the architects are not so good at making sure that the management of those cloud environments are such that the development space is turned off at 6 o'clock at night because all the developers have gone home. So they're not managing those costs. And if you're not doing that really basic stuff, then of course your costs are going to blow out. Now, one vendor buys a company and puts the price up and changes the licensing model. I'm not a licensing expert, but at the end of the day, manage your environment. It's really easy to blame the vendor. Actually, manage your own environment and take responsibility for your costs. And that's, you might be able to use that money for something else in your environment. But bringing all of that data and everything back, down from the VM space into a hardware server like we used to do it is not a great idea in this AI world.
Thank you so much. Bashir, let's wrap it up with a quick feedback, insights on, what about the fintechs? Are you seeing a lot of the fintechs? Are they building a lot of modern applications in containers? And is that going to help them de-risk themselves from this whole VMware licensing cost increases that are starting to happen?
Sure, how much it will help them de-risk from the licensing cost perspective, but I think we have seen most of the bigger name fintechs, including the likes of Monzo, who have built in containers and microservers from a while. I do think that's where a lot of the fintechs are going to go to. We will see a bit of not just fintechs, but broadly the technology startup world. And as we see more enterprises go, there is just but the natural choice to go forward with. So it's a question of there is that risk of if you're not able to integrate with your legacy infrastructure of your client, potentially we're talking about B2B firms or those who integrate enterprises, you do have to be aware of maybe having a system integrator to support you if you are already on microservices, whereas the enterprise is not yet there. But outside of that, I think it is the future. It is one of those things you have to look as cost of doing business, right? There are advantages of the agility, the security, the flexibility, and of course, the lack of needs of physical infrastructure, and thereof your costs coming down, and you may now have to pay more from a licensing perspective, which then have to be balanced out, right? What I would say is we probably will, as is always the case with the tech startup ecosystem, if there is a licensing fee and there is an increase in a licensing fee, somebody somewhere will try to figure out an alternative which could find them either move away from VMware, which is challenging given their presence, or to find a combination way of reducing those costs. So we will see how that goes.
Yeah, but a lot of customers don't necessarily have that option or easy option of moving their workloads off the VMware environment to something else, because it's not just about the operating environment, it's also about the entire changing the database layer, the middleware, the application stack. And that involves a tremendous amount of risk, cost, and the unknown in terms of the end user experience that may or may not get delivered with the new platform. So clearly, there is always a risk associated with any kind of a change. So clearly, we've come to the end of the discussion today. It's been a great conversation, and I think it's clearly evident that organizations need to get a lot smarter in terms of managing their data sources, data resources, building the right governance, compliance, capabilities, having better access, consolidating their data sources, and ensuring that the users have the right access, whether it is the developers or the applications that are delivering the outcomes, have access to the right data in real time so that the decision making, the business decision making can get accelerated, and that puts organizations at the forefront of this highly competitive or hyper competitive business landscape. So with that, we come to the end of the session. Thank you, everyone, for your time today and for a great conversation.
Thank you
for having me.
A big thank you to our distinguished panelists, Jenny, Rowan, Mushir, and of course, Rajneesh, for leading the conversation and sharing such beautiful gems of wisdom. With that, we'll now move forward to our next session, which is a fireside chat, an engaging dialogue on getting future ready, modernizing your VMware foundation for growth and innovation. In this session, we'll go deeper into what it means to modernize VMware foundations and why it's crucial for aligning technology with long-term goals. Joining us is Chris Gondek, Solutions Engineering Manager and ANZ Specialist at NetApp, with Rajneesh Arora leading the discussion. So let's begin and hear their perspectives and learn how we can prepare our VMware environments to drive innovation, efficiency, and resilience.
Welcome, Chris, to this fireside chat. Look forward to having a spirited conversation with you on a very hot button topic. The industry and the global economy is all talking about data-driven innovation and, this whole shift to digitization and digital businesses. But what I believe is, and I'm sure you probably agree with me, in order to sort of accelerate and drive this data-driven innovation, there are a few key strategic imperatives that every CIO and IT leader needs to work on to become a lot more data savvy. What is, in your opinion, some of these top-of-the-mind strategic data innovation, data management imperatives that they should be focusing on?
Yeah, thank you, Rajneesh. Look, it absolutely is interesting times that we're in. We call it at NetApp the fourth wave. This fourth wave that's been brought about innovations specifically through AI. There's the good and the bad elements of it. So it does create a lot of what you call exactly data-driven imperatives. I could probably summarize them in about 2 or 3 top criteria. And it's almost formulated in a way that allows a business to be best prepared to do things responsibly. We don't want to rush into any of these new innovations without carefully considering some of the impacts. So I typically talk about 3 key things around resiliency, intelligence, and innovation. The resiliency side of things is almost a first step forward. We're talking about the security of the data repositories, the availability, and then some of the governance around that. This ensures or assures business continuity, especially given that data is that mission critical asset that fuels all of these activities. The next one is around intelligence. Intelligence is the kind of underpinning approach to turning data into information. And then we as humans, I guess, consume and manipulate that information for these outcomes. But this is also where things like compliance and governance come into play through key areas such as data classification, identification, and preparation. Being able to really identify our workloads helps us to make better data-driven resiliency decisions. Once you've got those 2 things in place, then you're ready to innovate. This is where you start to take advantage of high performance, feature-rich capabilities that are going to fuel and accelerate these AI initiatives with confidence.
Great. Now, in order to get that intelligence piece in order, I think a lot of organizations today are kind of struggling with data sprawl that spans across the multiple clouds that they're using. And of course, they've also opened up a new frontier in terms of the edge infrastructure. So there is the data sprawl and also data silos that organizations have created. There were the traditional silos of data existing across different business functions and business units. And now we are seeing these silos being created across different deployment scenarios. Now, what do you think? How can technology vendors help customers address this challenge of data sprawl and silos? Because I'm sure this is going to impact their ability to drive intelligence and also increase the challenge around resiliency.
Absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said these multiple clouds. I think the concept of multiple clouds breaks down into multiple infrastructures. Those multiple infrastructures housing multiple different applications with their associated user experiences are creating data silos and data repositories in multiple places. Really, the only solution to this challenge is unification, some sort of unified capability. And that's something that NetApp's been known for many decades. In fact, we introduced a unified capability around the early 2000s, which then extended into what is today known as the hybrid multi-cloud capability with our unified data management platform. That unified data management platform solves a number of key issues. One is the data silo problem by being able to provide that same platform with the same experience and same features in multiple simultaneous places. That removes certain elements of risks and provides that kind of data and workload portability. But we need the user experience to go with that. This is really important because multiple ecosystems introduce varying levels of differentiation in user experience. And we all know that technology adoption, the number one barrier to it is the complexity. If we eliminate that kind of user experience complexity by having that single unified platform combined with a unified user experience, we can deliver those same services and same service levels no matter where you find your workloads. Now, this is going to become increasingly important as we spoke about earlier with AI initiatives. A lot of that capability is dependent on these data feeds that a lot of businesses right now are having trouble in basically trying to bring them all together into a central repository. And that takes a lot of work, it's a lot of cost, a lot of time and effort. And there's not just one person asking for that. There are a number of data scientists that are asking for that capability.
So when you say unified data management platform, are you saying that if I have this in my organization and I'm running my organization's data infrastructure, I can seamlessly manage using this data management platform all my data repositories across the different clouds in my on-prem environment or at the edge?
Absolutely. Our approach to data management has always been through a single unified operating platform, which we call ONTAP. ONTAP is the foundation of the NetApp data fabric and is basically what the company was founded on. This vision of being able to provision data on tap, the same way that you would expect to consume any type of service. And this is ubiquitous no matter where you find us. In every hyperscaler, there is a native cloud offering based on our technology. And there is also our software, which can run on any infrastructure, as well as our purpose-built appliances for the data center that deliver that high performance and feature-rich capabilities. And that's how we address this situation from a hybrid multi-cloud perspective. Even when we're talking about out at the edge, our intelligent data caching solutions, as well as our software capable approach of running on any infrastructure, provides this single unified data management capability that simultaneously and ubiquitously exists across these environments.
So I love this term ubiquitous that you've used. Does it mean that, if I have existing third-party storage platforms and systems in my environment, I don't need to retire them overnight. I can continue to use them with the data fabric and the on-tap operating environment.
We have turned many legacy infrastructure environments into temporary NetApp ONTAP systems by running our ONTAP software technology on top of this infrastructure. And this is usually in preparation of adopting the NetApp platforms, specifically our appliances on premises and data centers. But our software-only approach is already available in all of the hyperscalers, both in a platform as a service offering and an infrastructure as a service offering. So that allows you to absolutely take advantage of any existing physical infrastructure to coincide with our intelligent data infrastructure offerings.
Wonderful. Now, another layer of complexity that we are seeing from a data standpoint comes from the fact that today customers are no longer running workloads that are powered by block storage or block data. We have file, and increasingly a lot more of the modern workloads are being, leveraging object storage as an example. So is the data management platform able to support these different data personas?
Absolutely. NetApp has always been known for being that unified storage management capability, which consists of file, object, and block, all from the same storage capability, both the operating system and the intelligent data infrastructure appliances we make. Now, we do have a block-only offering that is specifically targeted and priced for those block workloads. We recognize that block in itself has an addressable market and specific requirements around performance and availability that block storage is ideal for. But our unified platform absolutely provides all of those storage protocols from the same appliance or from the same storage virtual machines. And this actually provides a number of significant savings above and beyond just being that unified platform from a feature perspective. If you think about efficiencies, if I have all of those capabilities from one single platform, then those efficiencies are experienced universally across them. This is also the earlier scenario that we're talking about from a user experience perspective. It's still the same interface and effectively the same entity that we're managing to deliver these multiple protocols to multiple different organizational units that are running different applications with different requirements. The service levels, the performance, and the efficiencies, as well as the security, remains the same across them.
So this seems like a blessing in disguise for a lot of storage administrators and people who are managing this whole data complexity and data sprawl out there, that continues to challenge them. And in fact, in many organizations, it's also even throttling innovation because organizations are not able to access the right information at the right time. And hence, they're sort of over-provisioning infrastructure. They're investing in multiple management platforms. So I guess they need to undergo a roadmap and have a strategic vision if they really want to truly benefit from this approach. What are your thoughts on this?
Absolutely. You've hit the nail on the head there. A lot of businesses have the simultaneous challenges of adhering to security requirements, wanting to remain efficient and cost optimized, but also innovate with new technologies like AI. It's almost like you can only have one out of the three. And we've spoken to a lot of our customers and prospects, and they do tell us that they really only have enough resources to address one of the three challenges. Now, naturally, of the three, security is first and foremost the most important one, because without that one, everything else collapses. And we need to have that kind of secure mindset. NetApp, we are the world's most secure storage platform. We have a number of capabilities, including our ransomware recovery guarantee, which is unique in the industry. But the storage platform, which is secure by design, helps to allow our customers to continue to innovate without compromising on the security, but they're also not sacrificing the efficiency. Every step we make with innovation in our storage and intelligent data infrastructure platform is done in lockstep with all of our capabilities. So as we increase and enhance our security features, we don't do this by being detrimental to our efficiencies, like deduplication, compression, compaction, etc. All of the efficiencies are done prior to things like encryption. Doing things like tamper-proof and ransomware recovery guarantee snapshots is something that we've been doing for decades, and we're getting increasingly better at it. This then allows our customers to know they're putting their best foot forward with inherent security without compromising on the efficiencies to be able to focus on their innovation projects, specifically around AI.
No, when you talk about efficiency, I really want to bring up a topic which is almost like a hot button topic in the industry these days, and that's around VMware. Now, VMware has sort of gone and repackaged how it's selling its multiple products and solutions and technologies under three distinct, offerings, as you may call it. Now, obviously, that means that the cost of running in a VMware environment has gone up significantly for a lot of customers. Now, how is NetApp helping customers drive efficiency and cost optimization? Because there is no way out of these mission-critical, business-critical workloads that are running in a VMware environment. You really can't go to another third-party, hypervisor, because this has happened over multiple decades. They've created these hardened environments. So how are you helping customers address that challenge?
Spot on. And I like what you said there. There is no way out. There is no easy way out. That's for sure.
Oh, okay. I stand corrected. No easy way out.
There's definitely no easy way out. There's always a way out, right? But it might not be the one that the business is favoring. So from the perspective of VMware, absolutely, it's a very hot topic since the Broadcom acquisition and the significant simplification of the licensing structure of VMware. The one thing that we have seen that our customers and our partners are sharing with us is that the prices have significantly increased, which is making our customers look at their VMware environment for the first time in a different way. Or they're almost looking at it like the way we would look at a hyperscaler environment, where we see the costs up front for our infrastructure. These aren't kind of almost sunk costs anymore. So there's two specific ways that we're helping our customers. And I'll preface that by saying that being an intelligent data infrastructure company means that we don't sell servers and we don't sell networking equipment, and we definitely don't make a hypervisor. So we provide a very objective view about where customers can run their workloads. We call it appropriate workload, appropriate infrastructure, or appropriate cloud. And so the two ways that we're helping is, one, from the bottom up. Our intelligent data infrastructure platform, as mentioned, is ubiquitous. It is omnipresent both in the data center and in hyperscaler environments, with the only independently scalable storage service for VMware in cloud, for example, in all three hyperscalers. And this also extends out to the non-VMware platforms, the alternative hypervisors and native cloud. The other way that we help our customers cost optimize is through a process we call Know Your Current State Before Planning Your Future State. We use our very intelligent, what we call Data Infrastructure Insights platform. Now, this is an observability and infrastructure observability solution that is looking at VMware infrastructure, the entire stack, over periods of time to do a very thorough workload analysis. And we can see everything. We can see where we have over-provisioned or under-provisioned. We can see where there are opportunities to reclaim waste and right size. And these give some very immediate savings, but also allows a customer to understand their VMware environment from a holistic perspective. There are permutations with this intelligence that we get that other tools just can't find. One of these examples is reducing an individual VM core count down and improving on infrastructure optimization. But they also found that the application that was running within that virtual machine, where we brought the core count down because of storage performance, ran an application which was also licensed on cores. And the biggest amount of savings was from reducing that application core count licensing, not just the infrastructure licensing. So it's kind of a combination. Intelligent data infrastructure providing efficiencies and portability and peace of mind with security and administration. That has a tangible and intangible benefits. And then you've got that intelligent data infrastructure constantly doing continuous cost optimization and right sizing no matter whether it's VMware or any other infrastructure environment. And this is not limited to NetApp storage either. We can look at any infrastructure environment, any cloud environment, as well as any microservice architecture with Kubernetes.
So how is it kind of distinct from other third-party observability platforms out there? So sort of how should a customer be looking at the data infrastructure observability capabilities versus any of the third-party solutions out there? Because obviously they don't want to create an overhead of observability solutions out there.
Spot on. And look, I very regularly say we're not trying to be a Splunk or a New Relic here in this situation. Those solutions, full-blown, full-stack observability solutions go right out to application performance management as well as infrastructure performance management. Our data infrastructure intelligence and insights is specifically around infrastructure. We know that all applications are running on a mix of compute, network, storage, and these fluctuate in their usage over time. We provide that intelligence to not just help right size, but also help to understand the profiles of these workloads. And that helps us to make those infrastructure adjustments. And a lot of the time, we're also finding that latency and IOPS, a lot of storage-related data access and data performance-related activities have a significant impact on applications and their performance. And the only analogy I can use here is for those folks who are as old as me and remember the experience when we went from spinning disk hard drives to solid state hard drives in our laptops, right? That's the fastest I ever saw my operating system boot ever. And I just thought, this is the first significant leap in performance. So our infrastructure observability being focused just on the infrastructure that underpins the applications really simplifies that use case down to that cost optimization side of things. And then to do further deeper workload analysis, that's where we hand over to those other tools that are more application performance focused.
Great. Now, a lot of CIOs are kind of getting overwhelmed because everyone talks about resilience. We'll guarantee data resiliency for you. We'll help drive data performance in your environment. We'll sort of make access much simpler and easier. We'll provide data mobility for you. How is NetApp sort of helping customers overcome this overwhelming experience that they're going through, as I would define it, and sort of helping them build a journey? Because I don't think this is a point solution. I think this is where they need a partner with whom they can work over multiple years to sort of evolve and transform and modernize their data infrastructure environment. So any thoughts on that before we wrap up?
I love the way you put that. Yes, modernize, and especially when we're talking about resiliency, because resiliency encompasses security concepts, it encompasses governance and compliance, as well as other things that wrap up into business continuity and assurance. Really, what it boils down to is we need to adopt a zero trust model on the data side of things. Everyone has this focus on network-centric security and network-centric zero trust. If we think cybersecurity, that's where we go to naturally: antivirus, firewalls, threat detection. But really, where is the asset? It's on the storage platform. We are the first and last line of defense. Data spends 98% of its life at rest. And so we need to look after that data from our perspective, being the real-time detection, prevention, and rapid recovery service. So what we've done is we've incorporated a lot of our own AI and machine learning into our intelligent data infrastructure. And we've introduced something called autonomous ransomware protection, which we've had for some time. If you think about cyber attacks, when do they happen? It's arbitrary, right? We can't schedule when a cyber attack is going to happen. So we need AI constantly monitoring human behavior, looking for anomalous behavior, anomalous patterns, anomalous data activity. And with a very extremely fast and successful accuracy rate, block that activity and create a ransomware recovery guarantee tamper-proof snapshot. So the security that we're building into our intelligent data infrastructure doesn't just stop at multi-factor authentication, multi-admin authentication, or things like encryption. There's also this AI, autonomous ransomware protection, and up the chain, we're doing user behavior analysis to ensure that all of that data activity is being monitored in real time, and we're getting increasingly more sophisticated at identifying these anomalous behaviors and patterns and activities to provide real-time detection, protection, but most importantly, a guaranteed rapid, if not instant recovery point. And so we do play a significant role in cyber resiliency. And this is applied to everywhere you find us. We talked about our omnipresence. The capability in ONTAP is the same capability wherever you find us.
Now, NetApp talks about data guarantee in the event of a ransomware attack. How real is that? So do you really tell customers that they will be able to recover their data in the event a ransomware attack happens without having to pay the bad actors?
So really what this means at the end of the day, let's be realistic about it, is our confidence, our extreme confidence in our ability to create a tamper-proof, immutable, indelible recovery point that we can restore from. This isn't new technology. We've been doing this for decades. In fact, we've had a capability known as SnapLock for compliance purposes for a long time. All we're doing is leveraging that same technology to assist in a cyber resiliency scenario. Now, one thing I will add to that is the concept of multi-admin verification. Even if I am the administrator that created the environment, I alone do not have the power to destroy the environment. I very regularly ask our customers, our partners, and our prospects, who is protecting you from you? And at the end of the day, we have to adopt a zero trust model. Zero trust means we don't even trust the administrator that created the environment. We need multi-admin verification, multiple security principles to come together and agree on destructive behavior, whether we need to delete data permanently, or whether we want to unlock a tamper-proof snapshot that may have been created through an honest mistake, but where zero trust first and foremost. We're going to assume it's a rogue administrator or compromised credentials.
I think
that rolls up to the guarantee, basically.
I agree. I completely agree. And I think the industry has to really embrace zero trust as a big cultural shift. If they really want to build a fully cyber resilient environment that's protected against these growing ransomware and malware attacks, they need to have zero trust posture all the way from infrastructure, silicon, up to the database and the application layer. And that's the only way to have, a resilient infrastructure in your environment.
Absolutely.
We've come to the end of the session. It's been a pleasure talking to you. We could go on and on, but we're constrained by the time that we have for this module. But it's been a pleasure, Chris, having you for this fireside chat and hearing great insights from you. And I think NetApp is really on the right path to help customers accelerate and drive data-driven innovation in their organization for business success and advantage.
Rajneesh, thank you for your time. I appreciate that. And if I may add one more closing comment, the one thing that I didn't touch on while we were talking about all of these scenarios is sustainability. And I think it's important to raise because as we all know, as we're increasing and embarking on these innovations like artificial intelligence projects, we keep hearing about how much power these things are going to consume. And, you've heard me throughout our conversation talk about without sacrifice, without compromise. This also includes our approach to ESG. And if we can create a smaller data footprint by design, we're creating a smaller carbon footprint. So all of the efficiencies that I spoke of, as well as the intelligence built into our intelligent data infrastructure, we give our customers a visual view of their environmental power and cooling requirements, as well as some AI ops intelligence in how to improve on their sustainability scores. especially by reducing that data footprint to help reduce the carbon footprint. So I'll finish off with that one on a green note.
Thank you so much on that note. Thank you so much.
A sincere thank you to Chris and Rajneesh for this insightful fireside chat. This discussion highlighted how aligning technology with business growth goals is essential for driving efficiency, innovation, and long-term resilience. It's clear that modernizing VMware environments not only supports current needs, but also prepares organizations for future challenges and opportunities. Thank you, both of you. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to a wrap of this webinar and hope that this has been insightful and you have many fruitful takeaways from him. We request all of you to spend just a few more minutes of your time and share your feedback. The form will appear on screen in just a few moments from now, and we request you to please share any suggestions or recommendations that you have for us, because this will help us improve the content, structure, and delivery of our conferences. We look forward to welcoming you at our upcoming webinars and initiatives. And until then, hope that all of you stay safe and healthy.